if you're ARMY, hold your breath. Because what happened that night in Busan, the night of June 13th, 2025, was not just an ordinary concert. It's not just 7 men going on stage, singing, then going home. No, that night, something happened to Jungkook. Something even he himself wasn't prepared for. Something that made the 55,000 people in the stadium suddenly fall silent, then explode in tears. And that moment, until now, it is still widely discussed throughout the world. But before we talk about that special moment, we need to first talk about the context that makes this moment so incredibly heavy. Because if you don't know the story behind it, you won't be able to feel how deep its meaning is. So sit comfortably, because this is not a short video. This is a story about returning home, about years of longing, and about Jungkook finally standing again in his homeland, in front of the people who love him the most. First of all, we have to talk about Busan. If you've been in the ARMY for a long time, you'll already know Busan is not only the second largest port city in South Korea. Busan is the birthplace of 2 BTS members, Jimin and Jungkook. Yes, 2 of the 7 BTS members were born and raised in the same city. Jimin grew up there, spent his childhood there. Even his elementary school teachers still live there. And Jungkook? Since childhood, Jungkook has been familiar with the sea air of Busan, with the distinctive accent of Busan people, with the city streets full of memories. So every time BTS goes to Busan, there are different layers of emotions. There's something more personal, deeper, more home. And if we rewind to October 2022, we remember what happened. BTS held a big concert in Busan. It's called Yet to Come in Busan. The concert initially felt like an ordinary celebration, but no one knew at that time that this concert would be BTS's last concert before all of its members entered military service one by one. Less than 48 hours after the concert ended, the official announcement came out. BTS will undergo military service. The first Genie, then others followed. The stadium, which had been filled with cheers, suddenly turned into a sea of tears. And armies all over the world feel the same thing. This may be the last time they see the full BTS on stage for a very, very long time. Imagine 3 more years, more than 1,000 days. Before entering the military, Jungkook had done something extraordinary. In mid-2023, he released the solo single 7 featuring Lado and it immediately exploded, entered international charts, trending in dozens of countries. Then in November 2023, his first solo album, Golden, was born into the world. ARMY has felt this is the real Jungkook, already mature, ready to become a solo star of any class. But right at the peak of his solo career, he chose to prioritize his obligations as a South Korean citizen. He enlisted in the military. He turned down the 2024 Super Bowl invitation. He missed out on so many awards and international recognition. He left all that behind because he loved his country, loved his group, and knew that this was the right thing to do. ARMY cried, but also proud. 4 months Jungkook lived the life of an ordinary soldier in the South Korean 5th Division, serving near Yonghyun, Gyeonggi. No camera. There is no stage. There are no spotlights. Just a young man in military uniform carrying out his duties calmly. And the soldiers who served with him, they knew they were on duty with one of the most famous artists in the world. But they treat Jungkook like a normal colleague. And Jungkook is no different. He doesn't want to be treated differently. Then, June 11th, 2025, Jungkook has officially finished his mandatory military service. And you know what happened? Armies around the world have prepared massive celebrations. More than 50 banners were placed around the bus. Taxis in Yonghyun are decorated with photos of Jungkook. Some even put advertisements on Seoul city buses. Even the soldiers who served with Jungkook also lined up to celebrate the star's return. The photos were spread on the internet. Thousands of soldiers cried, seeing him. "He's so loved," wrote one fan. And that's true. He is indeed loved. After all members have completed their respective military obligations, 2025 will be the year eagerly awaited by all armies across the globe. BTS is back, complete, 7 people, together again, and they're not messing around with their comeback. A new album entitled Arirang was released, a name that is full of meaning. Arirang is a Korean folk song that has been around for hundreds of years, a symbol of resilience and longing. And BTS chose this name to represent their journey, a journey filled with longing, sacrifice, and finally, home. The world tour begins. They started from Goyang Stadium in South Korea in April 2025, then continued to various cities in the world. But everyone knows, Busan is the most awaited one. And not just because it's Jimin and Jungkook's hometown, but because BTS, the city Arirang Busan, a massive urban festival, has turned the entire city into a celebration. Busan Station decorated. Gwangan Bridge is illuminated by purple light. A drone show shaped like the faces of 7 BTS members fills the night sky above Gwangali Beach. Busan really became a BTS city for several weeks, and tickets sold out in minutes. 55,000 people per night, a total of 110,000 people over 2 days. Everyone was prepared to witness something that would never be forgotten. June 12th, 2025. First night. Fans who had been queuing since morning were finally able to enter the Busan Asian main stadium. Thousands of purple army bombs lit up simultaneously. The stadium was shaking, literally vibrating with the sound of 55,000 people screaming the names of those they had missed so much. But that night didn't go smoothly. There is a technical problem. There was a delay due to crowd management. The concert was delayed almost an hour and 45 minutes. Fans had to be patient in the intense heat, waiting, hoping. But what did ARMY do while waiting? They sang. They shouted the names of the BTS members. They turned on their ARMY bomb and created a sea of purple light before BTS even appeared on stage. Because for ARMY, waiting for BTS has been something they have done for more than 3 years. Another few tens of minutes? No meaning. And when BTS finally appeared, starting with Hooligan, then Aliens, then Run BTS, the stadium erupted. The energy cannot be described in words. The first night was also full of surprises. They performed Talda Gangsan and Mas City, 2 songs that are closely related to the identity of the city and region of origin. When Jimin shouted, "Welcome to my city, let's go," in front of 55,000 people, half of them probably burst into tears. But there was one small moment on the first night that stunned ARMY. Jungkook, in between performances, suddenly greeted the audience in a thick Busan accent. "Annyeonghaseyo, Busan," he said, in a Busan accent that was rarely heard because Jungkook had lived in Seoul for a long time. The entire stadium exploded. People screamed hysterically because it's not just a greeting. It was Jungkook who was returning home. Officially, emotionally, soulfully. June 13th, 2025. This date is not an ordinary date. June 13th is BTS's birthday as a group. Exactly 13 years ago, these 7 young men debuted and began a journey that would change the world music industry forever. And that night, they celebrated in Busan, in Jungkook and Jimin's hometown, in front of 55,000 people who love them most. The second night's concert opened in a different way. There's something in the air, heavier, deeper, more sentimental. Even before BTS appeared, many ARMY members were crying just sitting there, realizing how far this journey was. Then the big moments started to come one by one. J-Hope introduced the first performance of Normal Korean Ver, the Korean version of the song on the album Arirang. And in Busan, with an audience that could mostly understand every word in Korean, the song felt like a letter written especially for them. Then the next surprise, Dang, Dimple, and the one that made ARMY scream the most in disbelief, Magic Shop. A song that hasn't been performed live in years. A song that has a very deep meaning for the ARMY community. When the intro to Magic Shop started playing, cries exploded throughout the stadium. And during the encore, BTS performed One More Night live for the first time in history, with dramatic water effects washing over the stage a euro, creating incredible visuals under the bright lights of the concert. But that wasn't all that made ARMY's heart stop the most. What made everyone speechless the most was the closing moment. At the end of the concert, one by one the BTS members came forward to speak. RM talked about how the world has changed so much in 13 years, about how K-pop, which was once small, has now become a global phenomenon. It feels like just yesterday we were still practicing in the studio and releasing the album. He said, "It is an incredible honor and privilege to still be standing here with you. Please stay with us for a very, very long time." Jin, the oldest member, couldn't hide his emotions. "Your happiness is the greatest birthday gift," he said. "I'm truly grateful to the ARMY and to the members as well." Jimin, standing in his own homeland, said in a trembling voice that several of his teachers from elementary school were there, watching him from the stands. The teachers who taught him when he was a little boy who dreamed of becoming a dancer. "I am very happy to be able to sing and dance in my hometown today," he said. "This is a meaningful day." And then it was Jungkook's turn. Pause for dramatic effect. Jungkook walked to the center of the stage. The spotlight was on him. 55,000 pairs of eyes looked at him. And those first few seconds, a euro, he was just silent, quiet, like he was searching for the right words. Or maybe he was holding something back. Then he lifted his head, looked around the stadium a euro from one end to the other a euro, and his breathing seemed heavy. "Busan," he said in Korean. "This is my hometown." His voice didn't tremble, but there's something there. Something heavy but also light, like someone who finally made it home after a very long journey. "You have taken very valuable time to come here tonight," he continued. "I know many of you come from far away, from different countries. You sacrifice time, money, energy just to be here." He paused for a moment. "And I don't know what to reply with other than a promise that I will continue to be there. BTS will continue to exist. And I hope we, a euro, BTS and ARMY a euro, can be together for a very, very long time, until we grow old together." At that moment, ARMY exploded, not in cheers, but in tears, because that sentence was not just an ordinary sentence. It was a promise from a man who had just spent more than a year of his life in a military uniform, away from the stage, away from the ARMY, away from everything he had built over the years. And that promise was made in Busan, in the city where he was born, in the land he once left to chase his dreams, and now he returns as one of the world's most beloved artists. But that's not all. There's more. Amidst the cries and resounding applause, suddenly from within the stands, spontaneous singing began. ARMY starts singing "Happy Birthday," a euro, not for any BTS member's birthday, but for BTS as a group, for their 13th birthday. 55,000 votes. One song, in several languages at once, a euro, Korean, English, Indonesian, Japanese, Portuguese, all joining in the same melody. And Jungkook? He covers his face with his hands. Jungkook, a euro, the golden magne, the man who has performed on the world's biggest stages, who has been used to the spotlight since he was 15 years old, a euro, stood on the stage of his hometown in front of 55,000 people who love him and cried. Not fake tears, not crying for the camera, real tears, the tears of someone who truly feels that love. Why was that moment so extraordinary? Because to understand it, we need to see the whole journey. Imagine, Jungkook first auditioned for Big Hit Entertainment when he was 13 years old. He is from Busan, a little boy from a port city, went all the way to Seoul to chase a dream that maybe even he himself couldn't imagine how big it was. For years he practiced. He debuted with BTS in 2013 when he was only 15 years old. He is the magne, a euro, the youngest member, which is always looked after by the elders. Always pay attention. Then slowly, the world watched the child grow. Before the eyes of millions of people, Jungkook developed from a shy teenager to an extraordinary performer, to a mature soloist, to a complete human being. And all that, Busan formed the foundation. When he stood on stage that night, it wasn't just Jungkook the artist standing there, but also Jungkook, the Busan kid who left home to chase his dreams, who has experienced the peaks and valleys of his career, who has served his country with pride, and who is now back home. And the army who was present that night, they weren't just spectators. They are part of that journey. Those who waited for more than 3 years. Those who put up banners around the military barracks. They are the ones who prepared Jungkook bus. Those who buy tickets months in advance and come from all over the world. Love is real. And that night in Busan, love finally met again. Of course, moments from the concert spread throughout the world in a matter of minutes. The video of Jungkook greeting him with a Busan accent has gone viral. The emotional closing clip of the second night was viewed millions of times. Jungkook's tears on stage became one of the most talked about moments on social media for days. "I'm not okay. I was not ready for this," wrote an army man from Brazil. Jungkook stands in his hometown after everything he's been through, and he still cries when ARMY sings Happy Birthday. "I'm not strong," said ARMY from Indonesia. He came back. He actually came back. "And he's still the same person who loves us," said an ARMY from the United States. The tagline, Jungkook Busan, trended globally. ARMY shared clips, memes, photos, and long writings about how much that moment meant to them. Because for ARMY, this was not just a concert. This is proof that after all the sacrifices a Euro from BTS and from ARMY itself a Euro, they are still here, still together, still love each other. And isn't that what BTS always promises? Of course, Busan is not the end of the story. BTS is still on their Arirang World Tour. There are still many cities they will visit. There are still many moments to be created. And Jungkook, after returning from the military, after this amazing Busan concert, he was already back in full artist mode. His energy, according to reports, was extraordinary, like someone who had been holding back for too long and was now finally freed. ARMY can't wait, because if this Busan concert alone fills the heart this much a Euro, imagine what is still to come. BTS has promised. They will not stop. They will continue to exist. They will grow old with ARMY. And Jungkook, the Busan kid who went abroad and came back as a world star, has proven that no matter how far a person goes, home is always waiting. And ARMY? ARMY is always there. So, that was the complete story behind Jungkook's special moment at the BTS Busan concert, which moved the entire ARMY. For those of you who have watched the video yourself and are now restreaming it for the third time while crying a Euro, you are not alone. Me too. If this video touched your heart, don't forget to leave a comment below. A Euro, tell me your version. Which part made you cry the most? Do you have any other favorite BTS moments that still resonate with you? And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the right time. Because there are still many BTS, K-pop stories and moments that make your heart full that we will discuss here. Until the next video, a Euro, stay purple, ARMY.